She had a little bit of a nagging injury in practice earlier, and she tried to play through it. We actually set her out of practice for a couple of days, hoping that we could rest her enough. And I do feel like we have the best athletic trainer, at least in the 19 years of me being in this profession. Jenna Duffick is amazing. And we thought Jenna could work some magic on her and get her ready for the game. And those first 2 minutes, it was obvious that she just couldn't go. So I'm just not, as bad as I want to win, I'm not going to try to do that at the expense of someone, especially a senior who still has games left in her career. So we thought it would just be best to pull her. She didn't want to because she's a competitor and she's a leader. But we made that decision as a coaching staff to not play her anymore. And a lot of credit to Brew and to Aaron and to Dio. I thought those guys really stepped up in Jada's absence, but we sure did miss her out there. We are doing the same thing. We're resting her this week. We're going to try to see how she feels at shoot-around tomorrow, and if she can't go, then she won't go, and we'll have her ready for next week.
Kind of touched on my next question. I mean, those three players that you mentioned really went off in her absence. So how positive was that to see?
It was awesome, and that's what's supposed to happen. You can't control injuries. You can't. You can only control how you respond to them, and no better time than this week for us to be reminded of that. This is our Play for K game coming up, and we watched a video yesterday where that's what Coach K said, is that, she can't control the fact that she got cancer, but she certainly can control how she responds to it and how she deals with it. And so one woman down and then the next woman up. That's sports. Look at the Philly Eagles. They certainly didn't make excuses. So incredibly proud of Dio. I thought she played her finest game of her senior year. And Erin played longer stretches than she usually does. And I thought she played as hard as she could possibly play. And it was really fun to see Brew out there playing in freedom and just really kind of carrying it from the post player's perspective.
When you watch West Virginia on film, has anything changed about them since the last time you faced them? They've kind of been up and down since that game.
Yeah, and they've actually, to their credit, for the most part, they've played the better part, the top part of the Big 12. They've played Baylor, they've played Texas twice. So, they struggled a little bit in the second half against Oklahoma. They're still aggressive. They still shoot the ball really well from three. They're still the same. If anything, probably their lack of depth is probably affecting them a little bit. But they're tough. And so when you're tough like that and well coached the way they are, then it's all about a mindset and a mentality. So if anything, I think they look the same on film. But what I'm pleased to report is that we look different. We are so much better now. I watched the film and I was like, holy cow. It's kind of the same way I felt from the Kansas game 1 and game 2. We're just better now than we were in Morgantown.
What would you say is better from this time now to when you played West Virginia?
Our work ethic, that was the first thing that really stood out to me as I watched our West Virginia film. I was like, wow, man, we're not working very hard. And like, I watched the West Virginia film on the plane ride home from Kansas State. So, to have that Kansas State game where our kids battled and played so hard for 40 minutes, and then I turn on the film and I watch us against West Virginia, and probably at that time, maybe I thought we were working hard at West Virginia, but we're not. So each week, we're learning how to work harder and how to compete. So that's the number one thing I noticed. We also are taking care of the ball a little bit better. I know it didn't really reflect it. We had 21 turnovers against Kansas State, but 5 of those turnovers were in the fourth quarter and 4 of them came from our freshman point guard, who, bless her heart, had played 39 minutes, and she was just worn out. And it also came against, great Kansas State length and pressure. But we're handling the ball, we're taking care of the ball better. Those are the 2 biggest things that I took away from the film.
Can you talk about the strengths of Muldrow and Pardee and what problems they pose for you?
Well, Party's just a great shooter. I mean, she killed us. She's a great shooter, and they do a really good job of getting shots for her by running her off staggers, running her through elevator screens, things like that. She's got a really quick release. As far as Muldrow, she's so versatile. She can pick and pop, and so she hurt us a little bit because she would pop, and then our bigs struggled to get out to her. They don't want to leave the paint. So we've been working on that. We worked on that a lot yesterday, and we'll work on it again today.
Coach, over the last month and whatnot, since you've always talked about kind of a different mind shift, you said over the last few games you've been able to compare this game to the last time you played, and you've seen a lot of growth. Is that something you bring up to the players, or do they bring it up to you? And how do you make sure that they're seeing that progress in themselves?
They don't see it. They don't know that. I have to tell them that, and I do. They're 19, 20, 21 years old. They don't think like I think. So I have to remind them that where we were 2 weeks ago is not where we are today. So we will show film today, and we'll show them some film of what they looked like 2 weeks ago, and they'll go, oh, you're right. But no, they don't notice that stuff. That's my job.
And is that kind of what continues to push them for the next game? Seeing whenever you show that to them, seeing the progress they've made, is that where you really see them take that extra step again because you've been reminding them of where they've come from?
This whole thing has just been such a process. I'll tell you a quick story today from workouts. We're struggling a little bit. It's not a secret. Everybody in the country is struggling a little bit with the flu and things like that. So we got a little bit of the flu bug that's running through our team right now. So we have some kids that I don't know that are out today, and I don't know if they'll be available on Saturday. Actually, one of our coaching staff, Coach Swoops, has the flu as well. So I don't know who we'll have. I don't know who's going to show up tomorrow. But here's the deal. So Erin DeGreat, who has really come a long way from the beginning of the year, and her and I work out together twice a week. And so she comes into her individual this morning, and, because everyone else has the flu, then maybe I can have the flu too. You don't. And so she's kind of looking a little moody. And I said, Erin, are you not feeling well today? And she said, no. And I said, neither am I. And on days like today, when you still show up and put in work when you're not feeling your best, that's when you grow. That's when you get better. So guess what, Erin? You're going to get better today, and I'm going to get better today. We're going to get better together. And so the first 5 minutes, she really kind of struggled. And probably a couple weeks ago, I probably would have just kicked her out, called it a day. You're wasting my time. But not today. What I did is I reminded her, Erin, you're leading our team in scoring right now through conference play. I remember in non-conference play having a talk with you where you were averaging about 4.8 points per game and shooting about 40% from the field. And you've worked so hard over the last month and a half, 2 months to get to this point. You are leading our team in scoring as a sophomore in Big 12 play. Doesn't that mean something to you? And the last 15 minutes of the workout, she really, she bought in, she buckled down, and she got better today. And so that's what I'm talking about. Like, that's where we have to look at the big picture, and we have to look at victories within this big picture. I understand this is a really tough, subpar season, especially for a storied program like Texas Tech women's basketball. I get that. And I am not about just moral victories. I'm a competitor and I'm a winner. So I understand that. But you also have to look at where you are and where you were and where you're trying to go. And today, Erin DeGreat got better. And Erin DeGreat is better today than she was 2 weeks ago, as is this entire program.
I just have one more question for you. What do you think changed for Brittany the other night?
Well, Brittany has really worked on what she's calling playing in freedom, where she's not concerned about mistakes or missing shots or turning the ball over. She just wants to play in freedom, as she's putting it. So it really started in the Baylor game. Now she only made two baskets. She took 16, and she only made 2. But we were totally okay with that. There were probably 4 shots that we didn't like after we went back and watched film. But Britt and I, we were totally okay with that because she was so aggressive and she wasn't hesitating. She wasn't thinking. And so what you saw in Kansas State is really just kind of a carryover from the mindset that she had in the Baylor game. And, every day is a new day, and I don't know what Britt's going to do tomorrow. I don't know if she's going to score, 20-some points tomorrow. I hope she does, but what I hope more than anything is that she just continues to play in freedom. And this is a game, and she's 19 years old, and she's not a computer. She's a kid. And she's just figuring out as she goes. But I'm really proud of her aggressiveness.
Last thing from me. Do you think you can exploit their lack of depth a little bit tomorrow by running kids in and out?
You would think, but it goes back to what I was talking about earlier. It depends on, our depth. Like, I legit have no idea of how many kids we're going to have available tomorrow. So depending on if we have that full roster or not, the good news is that we do have Ayanna McKenzie back. She has been out with a shoulder injury the last couple games. We've got her back. She's one tough kid, and that will help us tremendously. We sure could have used her against Kansas State. So I know for sure we'll have her. But if we have everyone that we have, I'd love to be able to sub in and out and try and exploit that. But right now, it might be our depth against their depth.
Pink out game. So, I mean, how much pleasure do you take in being a part of kind of that sort of experience, especially as head coach?
It's a big deal. It's always been a big deal ever since we've started doing this. We didn't do this when I was a player. This just really came about since I've been coaching. This has always been a big game for me, a big teaching moment for me to be able to, one, expose our players to the legacy that is KL, and two, to really be able to show them that you are playing for something so much bigger than yourself. So we've watched 2 KL videos yesterday, one before practice, one after. We're going to watch another one today before practice, and then I've got a couple other videos that I'm going to show them tomorrow before the game. But just constantly reminding them that it's really about controlling the controllables. And they're going to be surrounded tomorrow by just so much strength and so much resiliency and all those breast cancer survivors that are going to come to our game and be honored. The awareness that we're raising, the money that we're raising, I think Coach Sharp and her connection to the KL Foundation, and no one does it better than TTU. So this is a really big deal for us and a great opportunity for us all. For all of us, to be reminded that, when, as Coach Yao said, life kicks you, let it kick you forward for all of us.